Hi everybody, this is Brian Kuh with another ROK video. We are looking in on Kingdom 1307, imprisoning, rallying, and swarming a 1v whale, who is one of the last 1v holdouts in Kingsland, as their kingdom is being pushed out in this high-profile Strife of the Eight that was won mere hours later by 1307 and their allies. The city garrison here is a Flavius Heraclius garrison, so it's very well prepared for this swarm. The player here, whose name is Daegul, I believe when you translate their name to English, it's Drool, but I'll call them Daegul out of respect, since they were nice enough to give me all of the reports of this city defense. And, this is one of those situations where what 1307 was trying to do was they were trying to swarm the city very quickly so that the player was unable to heal in between each occurrence of them going down to 0 troops. But I do keep checking the player's power and the player's dead count during this, and it really wasn't going down very fast. The deads were not going up fast. And what Daegul was able to do was they got heals off in that 1 second period from when they go to 0 and a new swarm starts. So you're seeing, the city's going down very low at this point, all from swarming. And there's going to be this brief period before everyone resumes fighting. You can see how just beefy Heraclius is and how long it takes these swarmers to actually get the city down. These trades end up being outstanding for the garrison here. But so, there's that 1 second period when the avatar disappears, and the defender was just able to get a heal off almost every single time. And that just makes the work of the swarmers so much worse, because they have to get through 700k severely woundeds before they're triggering a single dead. And, it's just one of those things where you put the imprison on a city, you've got some time to 0 them, and once a few of your teammates commit to that swarming, you pretty much you kind of have to go all the way. You have to keep that pressure on. You have to try and reduce those troops down, even though the player is online. You see the deads are just like barely dropping. And, at this point, 1307, the party had started in 1307. They had pushed 1v back all the way to their pass. There was no 1v open field in Kingsland. And this was just a really significant objective for the 1307 side, along with their allies in 1664, 118, 2425, and a few other kingdoms. And a few hours from now, the losing side is going to end up surrendering this KvK, because the 1307 side ends up taking so much territory. They push 1v out of the zone, and at this point they're just feeling very good. And if they have to lose a few troops around this city bonfire, lose a few troops for cheap, then that's a small price to pay for the very impressive victory for 1307 here. I think that what happened in this KvK, I think there's the shield, by the way. The defender here has had enough. They throw the shield on. The semi-mocking, semi-crying, semi-just straight happy emojis are out in full force. And, this particular party's over, but the cleanup job of this KvK is just beginning. The retrospective analysis that idiot analysts like myself will make is just beginning. Because this was just like a really interesting KvK. To me, this was a Strife of the Eight with a lot of Imperium kingdoms that had not necessarily had a fair war where you could really see what kind of kingdom they were. You can see here how 1307 has pushed 1V all the way back to the pass. And you can see that 1664 in the light blue has just taken a ton of territory in this KvK. The opposing side here was led by the Imperiums 1647 and 1079. And, I just think that what happened here is that the non-Imperium kingdoms, 118 and 2425, they basically beat 1647 straight up in Kingsland. You can see the 1647 flags burning there. And so that was a real both morale and strategic blow for the 1647 side. And then at the same time, 1079 was just not able to apply enough offensive pressure that forced 1307 to actually divert some of their army to deal with that threat. Right now I'm looking around for like where the locus of action is on the 1079 1AVG front. And, and I do find it right here, but it's just a neutral back and forth fight with flags burning on neither side. And that's just not enough of a push by the 1079 side to change things for 1V, because essentially this Kingsland opened during 1V's downtime, and they never even had a chance to show what they could do in their uptime because all their territory was gone by the time they got there. So we are going to be able to look through all of these reports now. So here are those reports. You can see that 1V did reinforce the city quite a bit. And so some of the deads that you're going to see on the left side, on the defense side, are from reinforcements rather than from the actual garrison. They have the Flavius and the maxed Heraclius on their wall, which is, the perfect garrison for this situation. They were very well prepared for endless swarming. Really good stats there with over 200 in infantry attack and defense, and 26% all damage, which is twice the amount of the Nevsky rally. But there's a lot of reports to go through here, and I am going to go through them all, and it will give me a chance to riff on this Lost Kingdom a little bit more. With 307, the debate has always been whether they are a super kingdom or not. And the side that argues they're not a super kingdom will point to the fact that 307 has never had that landmark victory where they really prove their mettle against in a very fair fight. And I think overall this was a fair fight. Personally, I thought that the 1V 1079 side was going to win the KvK. I just felt like it was two Imperiums versus two Imperiums, and that 1V would be the difference maker in this thing. I think, as it turned out, it was really 118 and 2425, that camp, that was the difference maker. Here's Calvin Klein getting involved in the swarming. The famous fashion designer Calvin Klein doing their thing. Calvin Klein is not known as a great Rise of Kingdoms player. They're more of a business person and a a well-known fashion brand, but it's always nice to see celebrities and famous people play in Rise of Kingdoms. So good to see Calvin Klein involved here. But, getting back to 307, I think the last 3 KvKs they've had have all been impressive for them. They had a very long Kingsland against 960, which in retrospect may have been the most impressive of their three recent Strife of the Eights. Because we've now seen 2 Kingslands end quite quickly in these high-profile Strife of the Eights, whereas the 960 versus 307 Strife lasted a really, really long time. So, and they had some issues there, I think, with like territory and with some of their allies, and so I think that was all in all a good KvK for 307. And then they beat 412. They were, a key factor in 412 falling apart. And now they have this additional impressive win against 2 well-respected Imperium kingdoms and the global Osiris League champions. It looks like here on this one, the Garrison did not get a heal off. So kind of interesting. The Garrison essentially got better at healing very quickly later on. And with some of these trades, you're seeing, more deads on the defense side, but more power loss on the attacking side. And I think it's just because they were going through some tier 1 troops. But, these are just like, all of these are such good trades for the defense, and fair play to Daigle here for getting a really nice trade on the way out. It always stinks to lose to lose a war, but it's always nice to make it sting on the way out. And they absolutely made it sting for 307 after this one. There will be some people from 307 who are waking up the next day looking at how many deads they took and having a few hangover type regrets about it. But this was this was just like a super interesting war, and I think these are just like very eventful wars where the survival of kingdoms is often on the line in these things. I would be surprised if 0 kingdoms had significant departures after this, or maybe leaders stepping down. You never know what's going to happen in a KvK where it's essentially a proving ground. It's a proving ground for all involved to see where you are as a kingdom. And the interesting thing is that it doesn't really end with the Kingsland loss. It doesn't end with the surrender in Kingsland, especially since this surrender was pretty quick. This Kingsland lasted maybe like 16 hours before the losing side waved the white flag. And what's going to happen now is that all of these kingdoms on the losing side are going to need to manage the final 15 or so days here, because the attacking side is still pretty fresh. The thing about 1AV, or the thing about 307 here, is that they were the freshest kingdom going into Kingsland, and so they're very fresh and likely have the potential to either conquer the whole map or decide which of the losing kingdoms they want to conquer. And so here again, it's interesting. Like, I'm looking through these reports, and so here it looks like he does get the heal off here, but there's no did they get a heal off? We'll figure it out as this thing goes on, because basically what happens is that in some of the reports there's a little like heal icon. I'll show you later on. There's like a heal icon where the garrison is able to actually heal during the fight. And I sort of wondered like what was going on there. But yeah, the garrison is essentially still getting the hang of how to heal. And as it goes on, they're going to do a better job of... yeah, so now you're seeing it, right? You're seeing like all these like severely woundeds. These severely woundeds take place. So I think they did get a heal off here. And that was just like so key to making these trades way better. You know, but there's just a lot of the KvK left, and the losing side, like at this point, the losing sides just they need to like keep the vibes up, and they need to, you know, make a really tough decision about whether they're going to defend their home territory or just give it up. And you don't do that for you do that partly for negotiating rewards, but really you're just doing that because you just want your players to be as happy as they can be. You know, you don't want to you don't want to feel like you're just a kingdom that has collapsed, and you want to sort of show your commitment to the future of the kingdom. And at the same time, you have to gauge how much energy and resources your players have left, because I think in the case of both 1079 and 1647, I think both of them fought a lot before Kingsland opened, and they are to some extent worn down already. So it just is a management situation when morale is low, when your resources are diminished, and in many cases, this is really what tests a kingdom the most. Losing a KvK is what tests a kingdom the most. And, you know, so and to me, that's just what's interesting about it. Again, you see the full heal here on the garrison. I mean, this is just like, they killed so many troops here. You know, shout out to anyone who becomes like a obsessed fan of this video and adds them all up. I'd be happy to point that out in another video, but it was enough for me to just kind of scroll through and ramble on about whatever I've been rambling about. You know, so yeah, as far as 307, is 307 a super kingdom now? First of all, I think that it's academic or like irrelevant whether they're a super kingdom or not, because they've destroyed 412. They have potentially diminished 1647 and 1079, who were sort of like competitors to them to some extent. I think probably 1079 in particular, because they're more of like an English-speaking kingdom. So they've sort of bested some of the kingdoms that they will be competing with recruitment-wise. They've got their own players feeling quite confident. Their kingdom is essentially as strong as it has ever been, by virtue of the fact that a lot of kingdoms around them are falling apart, whether that's 556, 412. I don't even know. I don't follow the ROK soap opera as much as some people, so like, sorry if I'm saying things that are incorrect here. I just knew some people in this war and had a little bit of information along the way, and just followed it a bit more than I followed other ones. Looks like Makote is in this report here, so I guess Calvin Klein is not the only celebrity who was in this Strife of the Eight. Shout out to Makote. I guess it might be a fake Makote, who knows. So in some ways it doesn't matter if 1v or if 307 is considered a super kingdom. I think one could argue that this is not a landmark victory for them still. You know, if you wanted to be real picky about it, you could say this is not a landmark victory for them because some of their allies did so much of the work, both before Kingsland and during Kingsland. I mean, 1664 took a bunch of territory, and then 118's camp just beat an Imperium kingdom straight up, which is just like a huge morale boost to the 1AVG side. Here's another rally, another Attila-Takeda rally on it. Yeah, it looks like what you will see here is that as the garrison goes down, there are some good trades to be had. Like, there are some good trades that occur. The Nevsky Joan seem to be the most successful swarmer against this garrison. There's a number of profitable Nevsky Joan rallies by power alone. Definitely a fair number of KvK primaries on the attacking side in this little session, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, you could say that 307 they weren't like fully tested in this KvK, so like maybe they're still not a super kingdom, but I don't know. I'm pretty impressed with what they did. They definitely exceeded my expectations overall, and I think with the way 960 has really won everything in recent months, I think their KvK against 960 is more impressive now than it was at the time. So yeah, really, really interesting to have 307 on the rise. You know, there still is that potential for like an epic Strife of the 8 with everybody, right? 254, 365, 960, 1093, 1307, and, whoever else gets into that conversation. I would say those kingdoms I just listed are the ones that are in the super kingdom conversation. And as for the other Imperiums in this one, it's kind of back to the drawing board. You just have to assess what happened, and you either become stronger from it, or you fall apart, or you're just weakened. I mean, my experience after a loss is that you're just weakened. You're not destroyed. You're just kind of weakened. Some of your good players leave for one reason or another. Sometimes a key player or two will retire, and that can be brutal. It is absolutely brutal when you lose some key officers, which is something that happened to our alliance after our last KvK, which I will get back to videos of that KvK soon. That KvK was neither a loss or a win. It's just like a drama-filled thing that I still need to tell. But anyway, we're wrapping up here. I appreciate everybody. So here's the healing, right? Like, here's where like they healed during the fight. Healing was completed during the fight. I thought that was very interesting. I don't know how that works. I don't know what the deal is with that. But yeah, if you know anything about how this player was able to sometimes heal within like 1 second of the next swarm starting, or if you know anything about the healing completed during the battle report, let me know down in the comments. I would love to know how that works. I really don't know the first thing about it. I think we all wonder how we would perform if it was our city in this situation. But this player here was very much on top of it. They really played it about as well as anybody could. And yeah, did a lot of damage to a kingdom that they're probably not too happy with. I know I have a lot of resentment towards any kingdom that beats me. So I'm sure OneV was feeling a bit of that here, and that's probably why so many of the players reinforce this city, get some trades, and bloody him up on the way out. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's the first time I've ever looked in at someone else's KvK and given my thoughts on it. Maybe I'll do it more often. The editing of the video was certainly easier. I just played the video and rambled. So until next time, I'll see you all on the flip side.